And now, introducing out of Perry Hall High School, UMBC, and the University of Maryland, weighing in at 168 pounds, the curling super middleweight champion of the world, he is Glenn Clark.
Good morning, it is Glenn Clark Radio. I am Glenn Clark. He is Paul Valley. Papa Cass is here, but I have her on assignment. I got a little bit of an issue with the cord, and I don't know if you all have heard cords cost a little bit. The old Apple companies figured out a way to get you. Oh, yeah, no problem. You don't need a new computer. You just need a new cord. It'll cost you $500. Not really, but it's not far off. It ain't far off. A lot to do on a Tuesday edition of the program. Coming up, we're going to chat with Maryland women's lacrosse coach Cathy Reese. They're back in the NCAA tournament. One of a few area teams that are in the NCAA women's tournament. Loyola hosting as well. Maryland's hosting, and they don't have to play on Friday. They got a bye into Sunday. Loyola is hosting. Johns Hopkins made the NCAA tournament, as did Mount St. Mary's make the NCAA tournament. We will talk to Cathy Reese about her team in just a couple of minutes. We will begin our new weekly, we did a weekly NFL draft segment leading up to the draft. We're going to do the same thing with the MLB draft since the Orioles hold the number one pick. Our first weekly MLB draft segment will involve Kylie McDaniel from ESPN. He will join us here in a bit, talk about the Orioles' options. There is not a consensus. There are people that will tell you that they believe that Drew Jones, Andrew Jones' son, is the top prospect in this draft. There are others that will say, yeah, man, it's not a... You remember there was even some debate about Adley Rutschman in relation to Bobby Witt Jr. It's not even like coalesced around two guys just yet going into this particular draft. We're not even at that place just yet when it comes to this. Tamar Johnson is still in the conversation. Elijah Green's name still comes up. I know that MLB Pipeline did a mock draft recently, and they still had the Orioles taking Brooks Lee, the infielder from Cal Poly, who's been a shortstop but probably isn't really a shortstop. They had him going with the Orioles' number one pick. Now, some of that, of course, was them saying, hey, look, all the Orioles do is take college bats, so we're not going to assume suddenly that they're not going to take a college bat. But there's still some discrepancy about what it is the Orioles might do with the number one pick. We will talk with Kylie McDaniel about all of that. Also this morning, Patrick Stevens joins us. We will have our weekly chat with our college sports guru and stuff and things coming up leading into Simply the Bets at 11:40 a.m. Brought to you by the FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel Maryland. We do Simply the Bets every Tuesday morning at 11:40. And every other Thursday morning, we bring you Weekend at Bookies. Simply the Bets every Tuesday, Weekend at Bookies every other Thursday. Brought to you by the FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino Hotel Maryland. Couple of things this morning before we get to Kylie McDaniel. One, the Baltimore Ravens have signed a running back. Boy, we really have all sorts of packaging tape and no duct tape, huh? We got to do something about that, Cass. What are we going to do about that? What are you prepared to do in order to solve this problem? What are you prepared to? Go buy duct tape. Nah, I don't know if we're going to do that or not. We'll see. Anyway, the Baltimore Ravens have signed a running back. They did exactly what you guys asked. You wanted a wide receiver, and they got you a running back. Because, look, Mike Davis is coming to Baltimore. Mike Davis, who was the starter going into last season in Atlanta, and struggled. Let's just be frank about it. He struggled. Had some success previously in San Francisco. He was just released by the Falcons. There is no reason to overreact to this. The Ravens are going to go through some off-season activities here in the coming months. They have 3 injured running backs. They have a rookie 6th-round pick in Tyler Beatty. They would like to have enough bodies to be able to use during their off-season activities. I can't believe for even a second that they told Mike Davis that he is definitively part of the plans for the year. As much as they're a team that learned from last year that things can change in a heartbeat. So, whatever it means, Mike Davis is another body for right now. There's no way there was any actual money involved. I mean, I cannot fathom. I guess a lot of people would say, why now? Well, because we're only a couple of weeks away from OTAs. And because they want to be able to run their offense and get everybody else involved in OTAs. That's it. That's the end of it. I haven't even done the math here. Was Mike Davis in San Francisco when Greg Roman was there? Mike Davis. Years in San Francisco were 2015 and 2016. No, I think Greg Roman was gone by then. I don't think he was still in San Francisco at that point.
Was he in Buffalo by then?
I believe he was. Yes, the exact years, same years, 15, 16. So there is no crossover there. So that doesn't make it an obvious thing to do. I'm not overreacting to it in any way. There's no way for me to overreact to it. I can't fathom. If they spent any actual money on Mike Davis, that's bonkers. That's nuts. Even if they were to know something, like know that one of their running backs is behind schedule, Mike Davis is not a guy to be spending money on. Like that there is no reason for that to be the case. There is no way that Mike Davis is any better than the guys that you picked up off the street a year ago. So there's no reason for them to be spending money on Mike Davis, and I can't fathom that they did. I can't fathom that that's part of this equation. As far as what that means for, say, Tyler Beatty, I'm going to guess not a lot. I think it's protect his usage during these off-season activities and perhaps even into training camp. That's it. That's the sense that I get that's going on. Is that they just don't want one guy to be the only running back. So they brought in another body. They got another body. But the plans still remain that J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards are their top two running backs. And whatever happens from there happens from there. And if you want to say there's competition, that they're not guaranteeing Tyler Beatty a spot, well, probably not. He was a 6th-round draft pick. And I get it. We all like him. He's a local kid. It's a great story, all of those things. But guaranteeing a roster spot to a 6th-round pick is bonkers. That is not the way the NFL works. Even if you like the guy, even if you've heard of the guy, even if he was productive in college, you don't guarantee roster spots or opportunities to 6th-round draft picks. If you get to the start of the season and Mike Davis does more for you on the whole than Tyler Beatty does, then Mike Davis will be the 3rd running back on the team. We'll see. But not worth overreacting to. Not worth at all overreacting to. The other big football story this morning, I don't love what the NFL is doing and trickling out the schedule. I get it. They're trying to give some value to all of their partners. So like yesterday they went on Good Morning America and announced that weird week 2 doubleheader that isn't actually a doubleheader. It's just 2 games basically at the same time, which is quite weird for a Monday night. I don't know what the thought process is there. I don't know why they're doing that at all, but it's what they're doing, and I guess at least I'm choosing to hope, that it's them finally figuring out the thing that we've known for a long time, which is they should just put all the games on TV and stagger the start times on Sunday as if it were the NCAA tournament. They're a couple of decades behind in figuring it out, but I'm choosing to believe that that's what this is a sign of, is that they're starting to figure out the more games they put on TV, the better for the league. I hope. I certainly don't believe it, but I'm hoping. I'm choosing to hope that that's the case. So today they announced on CBS that CBS and Nickelodeon are doing a Christmas Day game with the Broncos and the Rams. It's not going to get me to tune into any of these shows. That they're announcing a couple of games here and there, but I get it. It's their league partner. The big announcement this morning was from Fox, which is that Tom Brady is going to become their lead NFL analyst whenever his career ends. That they have already agreed to a deal with Tom Brady.
So like 6 years from now.
Maybe 20. I mean, who knows? I have no idea what kind of analyst Tom Brady is going to be. I know that he immediately has the most cachet of any game analyst in the history of the NFL the moment he steps in, because no one could have greater cachet than Tom Brady does. Will he be good in the role? How could I possibly know? How could anyone possibly know that? I have no doubt that Fox did work with Tom Brady and had him run through simulated games, and before they made the decision to fully commit, they made sure he was comfortable in a booth. He obviously knows football incredibly well. We have seen far more of Tom Brady's personality in recent years to make us think that it can work for him as an analyst. I'm not here to tell you I'm excited about Tom Brady as an analyst, but I do like the idea of the analysts working the big games being guys who are big-time players. I've said before, it's one of the issues I had with, say, the Monday Night Football booth, is when you're talking about guys that were okay players, it just doesn't have the same cachet. They don't speak with the same authority. I know we've all accepted Chris Collinsworth. I mean, people in Baltimore don't like Chris Collinsworth, but I know we've accepted him as a top analyst despite the fact that he wasn't necessarily a great player. But always prefer great players on big games as long as they do their work and they want to be there. And like Kurt Warner, if you listen to Kurt Warner on the radio, he's excellent as an analyst. Still makes no sense that none of the TV networks have picked him up. But if Tom Brady's really willing to do the work that's required here, I mean, he clearly checks all the boxes as a player goes for being an analyst. But Tom Brady, the announcement is he will join Fox whenever his career ends to be their lead analyst alongside their new top play-by-play guy, Kevin Burkhardt, for their their Sunday afternoon 4:30 game of the week and their playoff games. All right. We're going to be doing this every week leading up to the MLB draft as the Baltimore Orioles hold the number 1 pick in the draft. We're going to talk some MLB draft, and joining us for the first one, he is ESPN's MLB draft analyst. He's Kylie McDaniel, and he's with us here on GCR. Kylie, it's Glenn and Paul in Baltimore. It's great to chat with you, man. Thank you so much for taking a couple of minutes for us.
Yep, thanks for having me.
Kylie, can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Hey, sorry.
For having me.
Hey, it's great to chat with you, man. I apologize. I don't know what happened there. Kylie, it's great to chat with you. I'm hoping that you and I are not having a ton of conversations in the future about the Orioles and top 3 picks. I'm hoping that might be changing in the coming years. But I guess let's just start sort of generically. Right now, how many players do you genuinely believe are possibilities for the Baltimore Orioles to take with the number 1 pick?
The latest sort of intel I've heard is they've worked it down to 5 or 6 guys right now, and I think the sort of top tier of guys they could reasonably consider is probably 7. So I think they've probably, and that's sort of a consensus if you ask around the industry, like who do you think they're really considering? It's, anywhere from 6 to 7, maybe 8 guys. And I get the impression that they've probably eliminated 1 or 2 of those guys. But it's still a pretty wide net at this point, and we can obviously go through some of those guys specifically if you want to.
Sure. I guess let me go – before we start going through some of the others, there is, of course, the thing where in the Mike Elias regime, the Orioles have taken college bats. And this appears to be a year where there are college bats that can be in the conversation. It seems like there are more high school bats that are part of this. How much of a factor is it that you guys that do this for a living are dealing with the fact that, hey, however we analyze these guys, the track record says we know what the Orioles are taking when they have a pick like this?
Yeah, it's been a big conversation basically since Baltimore clinched the number 1 pick, and it was kind of clear what kind of class this was. So right now I have the top 4 players in the draft are all high school position players.
Right.
Depending on any given day you get a hold of me, it might be 3 out of or 4 out of 5 or 3 out of 4 or whatever. But suffice to say, my top 2, I think all the way to the end, will be high school position players, and then right behind them are 2 more. That typically is the most desired type of player. Like there's the most like all-stars out of all the various demographics come from high school up the middle position players. That's typically where the upside, the exciting stuff, that's what teams kind of pick up here for, is to get that kind of player. Nobody really wants to draft a pitcher this high, and obviously Mike Elias is another one of those people. And the high school or the college players in general, position players are seen as, that's like the safer way out. You're not going to get as much ceiling. A lot of times those guys like, Pedro Alvarez, for example, will seem like they might be a superstar, but it turns out they're, a little less than that. They'll have Nick Senzel. There's been a lot of examples of this in the last, couple of years, whereas your superstars tend to come from the top of the July 2 class internationally, and the top of the draft high school position players typically is where those players come from. So given Mike's history, there's the Carlos Correa where he cut there, ended up taking the best player. Arguably him or Byron Buxton was the best player. And then it's cut the last 2 years, taking Kauser and Kerstad and spreading the money around. But when he had a clear number 1 prospect in 2019, he took Adley Rutschman instead of Bobby Witt, who now is I would say, neck and neck with him as a prospect, but at the time was seen as clearly better. So like he's proven that if there is a slam dunk guy, he'll take the slam dunk guy. This year, I think there is a guy that is clearly better, but in talking to some people that are picking up high, they're like, no, it's kind of like last year where there's a lot of different opinions. And the guy that I think is best, which is Drew Jones, the son of Andrew Jones, I think he's clearly the best guy. I think he's probably the consensus guy. If you were to ask around and take a vote, he'd get the most number one votes. But I think most teams see it as, yeah, there's 4 or 5 guys you could talk yourself into, similar to last year when we saw everyone's rankings get like jumbled up in terms of the order based on the way the baseball draft is set up with like a hard slotting process, and everyone shops around for prices, and then you pick who you think the best player is for the price rather than just the best player.
He is Kylie McDaniel from ESPN. He's here with us on Glenn Clark Radio. Kylie, why? Why do you believe Drew Jones is that guy, that's the consensus top player?
So I've tried to simplify my process a little bit. It's very easy to get sort of lost in the sauce going through all the different evaluations and models and stats and stuff. And for me, the draft boils down to this, which is don't focus on all the things the guy can't do. We have so many examples of guys like Justin Verlander and Tim Lincecum where it's like, oh, they didn't have command or a third pitch in college. And then it turned out their command got a lot better, and their third pitch then becomes their best pitch. They just learn their best pitch in pro ball. So even the like polished college pitcher that will get to the big leagues quickly, their scouting report changes so much. Just pick the guy who's good at the stuff you think is important and has the between the ears mental makeup stuff to make the adjustments that are necessary. Because everyone, no matter how advanced they are as an amateur, will change a lot. And so for me, if you start with what are they good at, Drew Jones is the only guy in this draft where he has a chance to turn into that Acuna, Soto, Tatis, like that kind of guy, because he has the present skills of some of the other best high school position players in this draft, but he also is 6'3", 6'4", long-limbed. We've got 3 or 4 years. I was watching him as a high school freshman here in Atlanta. He's got all those things you want in terms of performance and now skills, but he has the frame and the twitch athleticism to where, like I saw Fernando Tatis Jr. as a 15-year-old, he was just pretty good. And then by about 17, it was like, oh my gosh, this is a totally different guy because he was long and lanky and projectable, and sometimes that stuff can explode. Drew Jones has some of that same stuff. Now, it's still, 1 in 5, 1 in 6 that he hits anywhere near those sorts of heights, but he's the only guy that has a chance to be that kind of guy.
So why wouldn't a Tamar Johnson have that chance?
So he is a guy that I think has very polarizing views. Part of it is because this year he played at a very low level of competition in the Atlanta area, the sort of small schools. And so, I went to a game and he had 2 strikes thrown to him the entire game and walked 4 times. So it was just, if you parachuted in and saw him for the first time this spring, you just didn't get a good look. It was impossible to really see his talent play. But I think I saw him take 50 plate appearances over the summer, and I've seen him for multiple summers in a row, another guy around the Atlanta area near me. So he's been easy to evaluate. Now, the sort of limitation in terms of his ability, he's a high school second baseman, which demographically is not very strong. You could probably play him at third if you wanted to. And he is 5'8", 5'9", and is sort of a, mature, filled-out body. I think the comp is Rafael Devers. They look very similar at the same age. I think even the swing mechanics are kind of similar. Devers is a little bit taller, but they both have a lot of the same things going for them. And at the same stage, when Devers was 15 or 16, people were like, I don't know if he's going to keep the weight down. Right. Can he really play third base? He's got some power, but he's not getting to it in games. You can kind of imagine. He was kind of fat when he was a teenager, and then he grew out of it. Tamar doesn't have any of those specific issues, but it's just you can imagine limitations just because of his size and position. But I think he's got the best hit power tool in the high school class, and I think he's a better now hit power combo than a lot of college players in this draft. So if you're just looking at who is the best and most polished that also comes with some upside, I think he's the guy, and that's why I have him second on the list, because if you focus on those 2 things, the 2 most important things in baseball projecting players is hit power and how far along are they for their age. He's the best at that.
When the Orioles clinched the number 1 pick, or what we thought was going to be the number 1 pick, because obviously there was a lot to be hammered out with the CBA, but when they clinched what we thought was going to be the number 1 pick, it felt like at the time, Kylie, that there was a lot of conversation surrounding Elijah Green. Why has that dissipated a bit over the course of the last 6 months or so?
I would say starting a year ago, going into the summer, he was seen as the best guy, but it was close. And 2 years ago, he was seen as, this might be the Bryce Harper, the best guy for the last 10 years.
Right.
Because he went to IMG from the high school he was at, and which means he's basically facing 88 to 90 or better in every game and playing 30, 40 games per spring, and is playing with multiple I think they had 2 top 2 round picks on last year's team. They have 2 more in addition to him on this year's team. So they're getting, there's 30 scouts at every single game, and they're facing good competition. And he's been doing that for 2 years. And then compare that to Tamar Johnson, where it's like guys literally can't throw strikes when they're trying to against him. Like the spring look is very different. And you can actually, that's a level of competition where it's like, certain days it's as good as a mid-major college. And he's 17, 18 years old facing that. The reason he was talked about as potentially that Bryce Harper, Justin Upton kind of guy is as like a 16-year-old, he had 30 home run raw power in the big leagues. He was a 70 runner, which, could steal 30, 40 bases. He had at least a plus arm. It was just the sort of physical combo of power, speed, arm strength was some of the best we've ever seen at this age group. The issue has been, again, he's facing better competition, but he's been tinkering with his swing. There's been some contact issues. With 2 strikes, he doesn't really move his hands or feet. He just kind of stands there and hits the ball. And I've seen him with that swing hit the ball 110 miles an hour. So, like, you get an idea. This is like, his dad played in the NFL. He's like 6'3", 215, and is a fantastic athlete. So you can understand sort of the upside here and why people would get excited. But then as you drill down, it's just not quite as polished as you want. And so if he goes to a team that's very good at, hitting development and like really dialing in an approach both mechanically and like what kind of pitches you're looking for, I think he could really, be that sort of dynamic talent. If he goes to a team that isn't good at that, or it just turns out things don't come to him as easily against, 95 on the black and then plus slider away, that kind of thing, it's going to be a lot of ups and downs trying to dial that in. Whereas Drew Jones and Tamar Johnson have a little less upside, but come with that like certainty of you've never seen them not hit before, which is at the top of the draft. Like people get fired over guys not making it out of A-ball at this level. So it kind of scares everybody a little bit.
He, of course, is, as Kylie mentions, he's actually the son of former Ravens tight end Eric Green. Elijah Green is. Kylie McDaniel with us here on Glenn Clark Radio. Kylie, if it is a college bat for the Orioles at number 1, is it a consensus that it's Brooks Lee from Cal Poly?
No,
Okay.
I have him tops amongst the college position players, and the short version on Brooks Lee is can really hit, has enough power, is a college shortstop, is probably a third baseman. Was actually seen as a fringe first rounder that would have signed out of college, but had a back issue, had a procedure. And so that I think he's past that now, but it sort of speaks to some of the, lack of upside compared to some of these other players where it's like probably a really good hitter that plays third base that hits 15, 20 homers and gets there pretty quickly and has some certainty. But you're thinking like a Kyle Seager if everything goes perfectly. It's just not quite as exciting a kind of guy. That's the kind of guy you take if you don't like what you're looking at in terms of those 3 high school position players and the prices. If you then think Brooks Lee will be close to as good as them, then you'll take him for, $1.5 million less and be happy with it. The other guy that I think the Orioles may like more is Jacob Berry at LSU, who is sophomore eligible, is younger for the class, came from Arizona, transferred with the coach Jay Johnson, and I believe has more home runs than strikeouts this year in the SEC, which is, the best amateur level of competition on earth. And is like a decent right fielder. I think a comp in terms of position and level and all those sorts of things is J.J. Bleday, who's had a little bit of a rough go for unrelated reasons in pro ball, but he was 4th overall a couple years ago because he basically just like hit the hell out of the ball and hit like 25 home runs in the SEC for Vanderbilt. And it's like, oh, this guy's a good right fielder and he can hit for power, and like how could this go wrong? And it's just been okay in pro ball. I think Jacob Berry will, suffer a little bit because of that. But if you're just looking for the most advanced now hit power tool in the draft, it's this guy. The problem is there's not a ton of speed and defense. He's played
Right.
third base in the past. It's probably more right field and maybe just fringy at right field. So you better get a lot of savings and be really sure the bat's going to play because you're getting toward that, Torkelson, Andrew Vaughn thing where it's like if they come to the big leagues and don't hit, then what do you really have?
Right. That's what you come back to. Like, can you take a right fielder number 1 overall? Like, no matter what, can you do that? Can you as an organization take a right fielder with a number 1 overall pick?
And I think if you cut there, because that would be a similar move to taking Heston Kjerstad, number 2 overall, you have to know who you're spending those savings on and have a deal done and have a couple backup options and know that you're going to be able to get to that money and kind of get your money out of it. Because there are instances we've seen in the past where teams will cut with their first 3
Right.
picks, and then they just have to take whoever's left over and basically let the league
right.
decide
Right.
who the leftover is. And you basically went from the 3rd best player in the draft to the 8th best player in the draft for players, to be named that everyone will dictate to you who they are. That's like the only wrong answer up here. So I feel like if you go to Berry or Lee, you have to know what those 2nd and 3rd moves are. And then because there's, 20, 30 picks in between, you have to have backup plans because not everyone's going to get through that you want.
Are those players to be had that would make it worth it in this draft?
Yeah, the interesting part of this draft is, I don't have the number in front of me, but I believe of my last rankings, of the top 32, I had 25 position players. So what that means is there's going to be a lot of teams that are just like, we're going to take a, very consensus position player with our first pick. And then there are a ton of pitchers. I think there's 8 Tommy Johns of players in the first 2 rounds of pitchers. There's a number of, like these days, there's a lot of data on all these pitchers. So it's like, oh, we like this kind of fastball and this sort of, frame and athleticism. So between that and all the injured pitchers and some of the guys with lighter stuff that are performing well, or maybe guys that fit a team's player development approach, like, oh, we can make this guy throw harder, he's already got the changeup. Everyone's got their own flavor of pitcher. I think over half the league is going to take a consensus position player, either high school or college, with their first pick, and then pick their flavor of pitcher, whatever that happens to be, with their second pick, and maybe third pick. And I've said that to a couple scouts that are, in the room making these picks, and they're like, yeah, that's probably what 15 or 20 teams will do. And there's a couple first-round pitchers who come from very wealthy families from the high school end that can probably float their way into that second round if they want to. If, some team like Baltimore plans to cut up top and they have $5 million more than everybody else at their second pick, then that gives them the power to pick which one of those guys they want at their next pick.
Well, but as I let you go, how does Kumar Rocker factor into this draft?
It's a good question. The plan, as I best understand it right now, is he will show up at an independent league to be announced. It sounds like he wants to announce it. And he'll start throwing in the next month or so. I think he'll sort of ramp up, throw 2-3 innings at a time, maybe throw 4 or 5 times, broadly speaking, something like that. The day after he didn't sign last year, I said, a team that is open to signing players from his advisor will take him for an overslot bonus in the second or third round, because there's so much uncertainty. They'll rush him to the big leagues, and once he throws 30 innings in relief in the big leagues, he will be worth his bonus, and that will lower expectations to a manageable level for him for what this is, which is like a giant injury question. And I think that's very common with a lot of, relievers in the big leagues. Like, maybe they could start, maybe they can't. Maybe there's injury problems, maybe there's command problems, maybe the stuff goes up and down, like maybe. But, like, we know if you sign a guy that throws 30 good innings and you gave him $5 million as a free agent, that's pretty good. And I think that's the level at which the expectation should be for Kumar Rocker. And I don't really see him going in the first 30 picks, but he could go anywhere from 35 to 75, depending on how the rest of this and sharing his medicals and all that stuff sort of plays out.
Is the talent still worth it?
I think so, but the talent is so tied in the medical questions that 29 teams, everyone other than the Mets, they don't know what it is. And it's sort of, this happened with Brady Aiken back in the day, where it was like, one team was very scared by this. We don't know how bad it was. Then all the teams see it, and you find out, like, oh, it's not quite as bad as we thought, but it's still a lot of different opinions. And then he gets drafted 17th overall and never gets out of rookie ball. So, like, the track record of a team was, like, scared to death of this medical is, like, generally not that good, but it's still a pretty short track record. And I've found, in general, when this sort of thing happens, like, teams are asking me, like, hey, where do you think Kumar's going to go? Because, like, they know what their doctor said. They want to know what the other 28 doctors think, because they don't know where that means he should go. They know where they want to take him, but they'd love to get him around later for a little less money if they could. And all that hasn't played out yet. So we just don't really know if it's compensation round, a bunch of teams want to get him and rush him to the big leagues, or second, third round, or some teams think he's a starter. Some teams aren't worried about the medical at all and think the Mets are crazy. Like, all of those things are on the table.
At Kylie McD on Twitter is how you follow him. Of course, ESPN.com and ESPN Insider see all of his stuff. Is there anything else I should be plugging for you, Kylie? The book, maybe?
Yeah, the book Future Value is in paperback now, and it's the sort of elevator pitch is it's the answer to Moneyball. After all of that number stuff started happening, Eric Longenhagen used to work with me at Fangraphs, wrote about, like, how the game is now actually changing. Now that all the stuff that Michael Lewis talked about has sort of played out, now we have all of this sort of StatCast and things like that, the things that are actually replacing scouts. How is that now changing baseball?
Kylie McDaniel, can't wait to do this again as we get a little bit closer to the MLB draft. Appreciate you taking the time for us this morning, sir. Thank you for doing it.
Yep, thank you.
Kylie McDaniel from ESPN checking in with us here on GCR. It's our first weekly MLB draft segment. We will be doing those as we continue to plow along towards the Orioles in July having the number 1 pick in the draft. All right, you know what? I wanted to take a break here, but we're not going to have the time. That's all right. We can finagle some things, and we might do an entire breakless hour. You're welcome. Today's show brought to you by the Baltimore Police. Join a proud new generation of Baltimore Police. Make an active difference in your community. Start with competitive wages and excellent benefits on day one. Join for good at bpdrecruit.org is the website for you to find out more. Of course, MLB Draft will be the night before All-Star festivities get underway in L.A. They have moved the schedule around a little bit this year, so the Futures game will be on Saturday this year. Then the draft will be on Sunday, July 17th from out in Los Angeles. Home Run Derby will be on the 18th, and then the All-Star Game on the 19th. That is the schedule for All-Star Week this year. So we are about 2 months out from the MLB draft, and I am sure there will be plenty of opinions to be had between now and then, and we will collect as many of them as we possibly can from those who know these players the best. We continue here on a Tuesday edition of Glenn Clark Radio, and we know that the NCAA tournament, the lacrosse tournaments, get underway this week. Our next guest, her team will not have to play on Friday, but they will get underway on Sunday in College Park. Big Ten champions once again. It's a pleasure to welcome back the head coach, the Maryland women's lacrosse team, Coach Cathy Reese, who's with us now here on GCR. Coach, it's Glenn and Paul in Baltimore. It's great to chat with you. Congratulations on a Big Ten title. Thank you for taking the time for us.
Oh, of course. Thanks for having me on. It's exciting to be here.
I know.
I love this time of year.
I know. It's a great week, right? Like, this is what you do this for.
Absolutely.
Coach, let's just start, right? You guys had like one slip up during the course of the season. What did you learn from that game? Why was your team able to click so much after that kind of weird slip up against James Madison?
Yeah, we came out and we were flat. We dug ourselves into a hole that game, and James Madison, continued to play great the entire 60 minutes of lacrosse, and we had a hard time digging ourselves out of that for sure. But I do think at that point in the season for us, it allowed us or challenged us to really reevaluate some things and see where we are and recognize that, we need to make sure we step on the field. We're trying to win each play, every play for the full 60 minutes. We can't have these lapses like that. And we've got a really young team. So I thought that was a good learning kind of experience for us. And it really kind of helped us as we head into the second half of the season and then into, the Big Ten tournament as well. I mean, that was something, that challenged us and forced us to learn more about ourselves.
I can't imagine it's kind of a weird spot. And I know that a lot of this has to do with the fact that there was a pandemic and that there wasn't a tournament. But it feels like there haven't been a lot of Maryland players who have gotten deep into their careers without winning a national championship, Coach. Like, it's just the success that you all have been able to have over the years. Have you felt a little bit of that, like the focus and the drive? Because I know there's some programs that hear me saying this and they're like, you got to get the F out of here. But it's been 3 years, right?
Yeah, and even more so than that, a Big Ten tournament championship. I have 2 players on my roster, my fifth-year seniors, Grace Griffin and Tori Beretta. Those are the only 2 players that were part of a Big Ten tournament championship out of my 36 because, my senior class was freshman in 2019 when we won the national championship, but we lost the Big Ten tournament at Hopkins Northwestern. So, we kind of looked at this season to take it one step at a time, right? I have a really strong class of juniors. I mean, there's sophomore eligibility. A lot of them are on the field. But as we went through, their season in 2020 was cut short. 2021 was conference only. And here they are in 22. So we just had a lot of growing to do, a lot to learn about ourselves. And then we went on and we won the Big Ten regular season. And then, the whole group came through with great Big Ten tournament wins to win that. And now, this is the first time for this group, too, that for the most part, freshmen, sophomores, juniors, that we've earned a top 3 seed heading into the NCAA tournament and are afforded the bye on Friday.
She is Coach Cathy Reese. She is with us here on Glenn Clark Radio. She's getting ready for the start of the NCAA tournament. Coach, how much does it help when you have a player who can score 111 points for you during the course of the season? It seems like that's something handy maybe to have for a lacrosse team. Yeah,
she's quite the addition to our team this year, that's for sure. No, I am amazed by all of our players, and she's one of them. What a great addition. She fit right in. She does it all. She can see the field. She can assist. She can score. Our offense runs through a roar accordingly. And, congratulations to her for being named the Big Ten Attacker of the Year, and obviously well-deserved. And, sometimes it's silent. Like, we could leave a game, and I leave and find out she had 4 goals and 5 assists. And I'm like, wait, what?
Wow.
It's just kind of, her numbers have just been astonishing as we've gone through the season. But, she's helped us with experience. The rest of my offense players on the field, for the most part, are sophomores, eligibility-wise, with Grace Griffin, who's on the offensive end, about half of the possessions. And so she has been such a leader for us in that area. And we've grown a lot and learned a lot because of her on the offensive end this year for sure.
Of course, there's that possibility that Sunday it could be some of her old friends that you guys end up playing against. That could be an interesting little scenario. I know that's, you guys are just going to prepare for you, but it could be an interesting little subplot to Sunday afternoon, correct?
True, but it also would be the third time we've seen them this year.
That's a very fair point, yes.
That I think it's challenging. It was definitely a challenge, that we needed to overcome when we played him in the regular season up at Johns Hopkins, and then we had him again in the semis of the Big Ten tournament. So definitely familiar with Johns Hopkins, and Duke's a different team for us. We played him last year in the NCAA tournament as well. But both teams have changed a lot since then. So obviously this week leading up to that game, not knowing what that'll bring, we're really spending these next 4 days working on things that we need to do to continue to get better.
Of course, that game Sunday is at 2:30 against whoever wins between Johns Hopkins and Duke on Friday. That will be when Maryland is in action in Sunday's NCAA tournament games. Coach, we were just talking to Taylor Cummings last week. We know the World Championships are coming here. Do you feel like, maybe Abby, how many players on this roster do you feel like could be future, Team USA World Championship caliber players that you have on your roster at this point?
I know. Isn't that fun? Well, even looking at all of these countries competing in the World Championships, we've got players on, Australia and Canada and England and the United States, and, people that have just have done so well and then have the opportunity to represent their country and compete in the World Cup. So it's so cool, and we're so excited to see all of them kind of do their thing. And with our current team, it's the U.S. program is always just something that people strive for, and if they're interested in it, we've had some great players that have definitely gone on and done extremely well, and we're excited to cheer for our Taylor Cummings and Alice Mercer and Meg Dowdy and Lizzie Colson of the world coming up here. But it's just, I just sit back and I'm so proud of all of these guys that just get to go on and compete for their countries and against each other, and it's just, there's such a huge Maryland tie there, which is just pretty cool to see.
It'd be a great opportunity for everybody to get out this summer, too, and see it and sort of celebrate the sport as well here in our backyard.
Absolutely.
Coach, generically as I can, what it's going to take, we know you have an incredibly good team, right? We know there are other obviously Carolina hasn't lost, right? We know there are other good teams. For your group, what will it take, given everything you know about winning national championships, what will it take for this team to get the job done and get the championship weekend and hoist that trophy?
Well, I think, it's whenever the selection show is just so exciting for all the teams who are looking forward to competing. And then the bracket's announced, and I think it's to remember that, for us, we need to win 4 games. We don't have to beat 28 other teams. And so the bracket comes out, and you're hearing all of these great teams that are announced and being celebrated. And at the end of the day, we have no control over who we play. We just have control over how we play. And so, we spend a lot of time talking with our team just to understand the process that the selection committee works through and understand what we need to do to be successful. And that's what we focus on all season long, are just kind of the details of our sport. And, none of that changes no matter who we play on Sunday. It's just staying true to ourselves and the details. And for us, I think as we've gone through the season, we've become much better defensively, playing, together as a unit. We're just really working together well. We're communicating well. We're seeing each other well. We're helping well, doing it together. Emily Sterling's making some phenomenal saves in the cage. Our middies and Abby Bosco's all over the place in transition. Yep. And our offense has done a really nice job of just being patient and smart. And we saw how dynamic and electric they could be in the second half of our Big Ten tournament championship versus Rutgers. I think we went 11-1 in the second half, which or something like that was huge. And so, knowing that we can put up those numbers and do that in 30 minutes of lacrosse, if we can, remain consistent, that's going to be key. And so we talk about this stuff all the time, and they know, and it's just, I just want them to continue to build their confidence and believe in themselves and just know that they're awesome and capable of anything they put their mind to.
As I mentioned, it could be Hopkins on Sunday. Obviously, it could be Duke. But if you could, Coach, just because we know that this is it for, what's it been like going up against Janine Tucker over these last years and the impact that she's had on this sport?
Yeah, it's crazy to think, Janine is just still so high energy and passionate about what she does. It's crazy to think she's been coaching as long as she has, because she just, her heart's in it and out there. And, her teams have just loved her, and she's always had a team that's fought hard on the field. And so as sad as it is to kind of see her leave our sport, we know that she'll continue to be involved in lacrosse, in the game, in many different ways, without a doubt. And so obviously for our group, and I think on all of our coaches in, college lacrosse, it's wishing her well in the next chapter. I mean, she's been fun to compete against, and looking forward to seeing what she continues to do with our sport to help us continue to grow.
And my friend MC McFadden would be mad if I didn't give a shout-out to your assistant coach, Caitlin Phipps, who I know got to celebrate Mother's Day. Her first Mother's Day was really neat. The baby made it up to the game.
How sweet was that? Yeah,
Her
husband surprised her, brought the baby up, and so that was her first time also being away for a few days. So that meant a lot to her. Of course, the girls on the team love it too, and baby Mackenzie's around and just always puts a smile on everyone's face. So yes, she's phenomenal, and my whole staff is. We're just looking forward to continuing to stay together with this group and enjoying each moment.
Well, Coach, we look forward. We'll try to catch up as the tournament goes on. Look forward to Sunday, 2:30, as you guys will be hosting either Hopkins or Duke. Best of luck throughout the course of this tournament. Thank you so much for taking a couple of minutes for us this morning.
Of course. Thanks for talking with me. Appreciate it.
Coach Cathy Reese, the University of Maryland. Terps, again, don't have to play on Friday. They get the bye into Sunday's action, where they will host either Hopkins or Duke in College Park. So we're going to have to call Patrick probably a little bit early, too, because he's got to be wrapped up by 11, I just found out. So we really won't get to a commercial until the end of the first hour. It's the way it goes sometimes. That's the way that it works. I can remind you that the FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel is the best place to be for all of the playoff action, for the PGA Championship, for big fights like Gervonta Davis and Rolando Romero coming up a little bit later on this month. You're going to want to be there in the FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel. 61 self-service kiosks throughout the FanDuel Sportsbook. 61. So no matter what it is that you're betting, they're open 24/7. So if you're betting Korean baseball overnight, whatever it is that you're into, you can get your bets in the FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel Maryland. And if you want to reserve your spot for one particular event, whether it's a fight, whether it's the PGA Championship final round, you want to reserve your spot, email events@sportssocialmd.com. That's events@sportssocialmd.com. It's Tuesday. Every Tuesday, we talk college sports with our next guest. Of course, we have brackets now. There is quite some controversy related to the NCAA tournament brackets from USA Lacrosse Magazine, the Washington Post, and the man that you follow at Discourse, D1S Course on Twitter. He is Patrick Stevens, and he's with us now here on GCR. Good morning, sir. How are you?
I am well, Glenn. How are you this morning?
I am quite well. It seems like everybody was very happy with the brackets. Everybody was in total agreement. There was just really no yelling or shouting or negativity on social media whatsoever.
None at all. Total unanimous approval here. So,
what did you make of how I know Notre Dame is sort of the hot topic, right, in the ACC in general. What did you make of how the committee put together this year's tournament?
Well, I think the funny thing to me is that if you are looking at it kind of the way I usually look at it, which is there's a process that they go through, and there is historical data that you can sort of use to predict what the committee is going to do, and so Duke with an RPI of 7 with a strength of schedule of I think of like 11 or 12 or something like that. There hasn't been a team with an RPI that high that's missed the tournament in the 16-team era since the field expanded to 16 in 2003. So for me, that was a really startling curveball. I think for the people that are looking at this emotionally, there's this outrage that Notre Dame didn't get into the tournament in large part because of this belief that Notre Dame could win the national title. I mean, they gave Maryland as good a run as anybody this season, a 2-goal game early in the season. And so, but I would tell you that I wouldn't have been surprised if Ohio State had gotten in ahead of Notre Dame just based on the numbers. Ohio State beat Notre Dame head-to-head. All of that having been said, and this is something that I wrote in the wee hours of yesterday morning. When you get to the point when people are questioning the process that produces a bracket that doesn't have a team in it that could plausibly win a national title, you are threatening, I think, the
integrity of
the event.
Yeah.
At that stage, you are essentially saying, maybe this really isn't the champion. I think there's a lot of teams out there that should be pretty happy that the committee, and Notre Dame obviously had a hand in this itself with some of its losses, but it's still 8-4. It still didn't lose anybody bad. That essentially, like, they've already been knocked out for them. I also think it's interesting when you look at some of the big losses that were counted as significant losses for Duke, which is the argument that was put forth. And I will say that for the most part, there is an argument to do it the way the committee did it. And my point, I think, is that the inputs that everybody is using, and the procedure probably isn't great, and it hasn't been great. I mean, it hasn't been great for a long time, but at least it was not great in a predictable kind of way. Like you knew how you were going to get sent up a creek. But you look at some of that. Obviously, losing to a 4-10 Syracuse team wasn't good. They lose to a 14-3 Jacksonville team with an RPI of 24, and that's a bad loss. If you extrapolate that out to what it would be like in basketball, it would be like losing to a 28-6 team with a net of 117. So, do we really want that to be a truly noteworthy loss that differentiates somebody? That's what you're causing? I don't know. I'm just kind of intrigued by a lot of this stuff. But I did think that the overall procedure is something that at least had been predictable. I didn't see this particular sequence coming. So if it's not going to be predictable, and it really isn't all that great at identifying the best teams anyway, because you're talking about a RPI formula, it's the foundation of this all, that's so great that when you had twice the sample size, basketball thought it was so awesome that it got rid of it and paid for a proprietary metric.
Right.
That doesn't have a public formula, which is probably pretty smart. So you look at that, and you got to think that between all that stuff and the fact that the two teams that got excluded in this, Duke and Notre Dame, have veteran coaches that have some pull within the sport. And there is a certain irony to all of this, that the ACC has benefited from this system for years and years and years, and now it doesn't, in part because Syracuse wasn't good this year. And in part because there were a couple losses here and there. Duke losing by a goal to Penn. I mean, if we want to sit here and try to pull up the tapestry of the season, switch that result around. 1 goal overtime loss in February. Instead, Duke beats Penn. Well, how does everything change? It changes a lot, I think. But it is definitely a moment for some reflection. And I think that if you are invested in the sport, if you're a stakeholder, whether you're a coach or an administrator in particular, but a player, a fan, a media member, whatever, I don't think you want to have a championship where a team that you legitimately believe could have won a national title isn't involved in your tournament.
So I guess the question becomes, Patrick, is the answer 20 teams? It's
not. It's not tournament expansion.
Yeah.
The reason it's not tournament expansion is simply because the NCAA runs a bunch of different tournaments, and the percentage of teams, 18 out of 73, it'll be 18 out of 75 next year. So it's a little less than 25%. It is actually on the higher end of the number of teams that are permitted into various tournaments. What you need is more Division I teams. More Division I teams creates more conferences ultimately, in all likelihood, which creates more automatic qualifiers. And so that's where you have to go with that. It's not just simply, gosh, we have all these great teams. Well, no, you have a certain degree of having to answer for how that compares to other sports. I believe the women's tournament is at 29 out of 119 or something along those lines, which is a comparable percentage. And so that's sort of what you're looking at. It's not a tournament expansion thing unless you can get more teams into Division I.
So it's just changing the system then?
I think the best thing that can happen at this stage is that you revamp the selection criteria.
Okay.
And I think there's a few other things you could do. You could certainly look at the composition of the committee. It has been for years and years and years 3 administrators and 2 head coaches. Do you want a bigger committee? Do you want a committee that is more coach-centric? Do you want a committee that is retired coach-centric, perhaps? I think that's one of those things that, people always dream of in a lot of sports. Like, why doesn't the basketball committee, why isn't that a bunch of old retired coaches or whatever? There's pluses and minuses to all of it. But it's all stuff, I think, that should at least be considered, discussed, dissected, whatever, as you're looking at a scenario where, I think a really bad thing for the sport is that we're going to spend the next couple weeks talking about teams that didn't even make the
right.
That's
kind of
overshadows. That's going to continue to be discussed all the way up until Memorial Day weekend, whether you like it or not.
Patrick Stevens is with us here on Glenn Clark Radio. Patrick, obviously Maryland is the top seed. They are the team to beat. They continue to just overwhelm really good teams throughout the course of the year. There is probably a bit of concern within the Maryland fan base about the possibility of a Virginia rematch in round 2 that, like, on paper doesn't seem right. I guess on a twofold. One, is it even a certainty that it will be Virginia? They have a tricky first-round game on the road that they got to deal with. And then 2, are they a threat to Maryland legitimately, or is it just we think of Virginia and 2-time national champions?
I think they're a legitimate threat, especially if they're healthy. And I'm not sure exactly what the state is for some of these guys that were nicked up. I mean, they had guys like P.E. LaSalle on face-offs and Matt Moore on attack that were playing hurt toward the end of the season. They'll have had 16 days between games by the time they play against Brown. I think that, I think everybody in the sport wanted to be on the other half of the draw for Maryland. Part of it is because that gives 3 other teams the opportunity to knock them out before you have to potentially deal with them. But the other element of that is that it's pretty well acknowledged that Maryland's prep work, when it gets a week to get ready for somebody, is unparalleled in the sport right now. And so you don't want them spending 4 or 5 days getting ready for you. You would much rather have a 48-hour turnaround. And I think for Virginia, given the emphasis that it's placed on fitness and endurance and things like that, and how that's played out on Memorial Day in 2019 and 2021, makes you think that they in particular would like that last day of the season scenario. And not just because they're in the last day of the season, but because I think that it tilts a little bit more toward them. So instead, you're looking at dealing with Maryland on a week to get ready. Maryland will have one less day than Virginia will if it gets through Brown. But I think Virginia has the goods to be able to win a game like that, especially if they do have a full complement of players to work with. I mean, I would tell you I think that Virginia's probably the 3rd or 4th best team in the field. I don't know if I'd put them ahead of Georgetown. And you could argue any number of those Ivy League teams. But I would think Virginia, between the talent that it has and the motivation that it's going to have, having been embarrassed back in March, would be very, very excited to take on a team that it's already beaten twice in May in the last few seasons on the way to championships. So I think that may well be the game of the tournament.
Yep.
A Maryland-Virginia game in Columbus a week from Sunday.
All right, total number of teams that can win the championship.
Well, technically it's 18.
Thank you, Pat. Appreciate that. Thank you. You know what? Nope. We'll just. I think that's better. So I think we'll just. No, go ahead. What's the number?
Yeah, I hadn't really spent too much time thinking about that. I think everybody assumes that Maryland is going to roll, but the question is if Maryland gets knocked off,
right, then it becomes really wide open, right?
The bottom half of that bracket. And so, could I see Maryland losing to Virginia? Yeah. Could I see Maryland losing to a Yale potentially? Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know if with Penn's depth issues, whether on a Monday, second game in 3 days, that would be a great matchup. I think we've already seen that the gap between Maryland and Rutgers is pretty significant. So, but I do think that if you had a scenario where Ohio State made it through, and I think Ohio State needed some time to get a little rest here too this week, that's an interesting team that is playing a Cornell team that hasn't been great of late. Could play Georgetown at home, and then could probably play a Rutgers team that it's seen a couple times, or Penn, or a Harvard or a Richmond. I wouldn't count out that sort of a run. I think they're pretty good, and I was prepared for them to be a team that I probably had the most sympathy for on Selection Sunday, because they had the head-to-head win over Notre Dame. They had the head-to-head win over Harvard. And ultimately they get in. So good for the Buckeyes, and I think that given the fact that they've already stood toe-to-toe with Maryland for 3 quarters would give them some hope and belief that they could do it again in a potential matchup on the final day of the season.
All right, let's play our game. Can Patrick Stevens name the MLB teams that this player has played for? Patrick, I begin with one that was tricky for me. I did not remember one of these teams, and the ironic part being he finished 6th in MVP voting the season he was with this team. He was only an All-Star once, 4 teams for J.D. Drew.
Well, J.D. Drew was definitely a Cardinal.
Most certainly.
And J.D. Drew was definitely a Red Sox.
He most certainly was. You've bookended it.
Okay. Was J.D. Drew in Atlanta?
He finished 6th in MVP voting. I have no memory at all of J.D. Drew as an Atlanta Brave in 2004.
Okay. And
2005 and 2006
was he out with the Dodgers at that point?
Of course he went 4 for 4. Of course Patrick went 4 for 4 on J.D. Drew. Of course he did. So I've got to change because I had an easier one lined up for our second one today. So I'll make that maybe a little bit more difficult with our second name because you just rolled right through on J.D. Drew. How about this man? He was a speedster, a shortstop, a man who was an all-star 3 times in his career, a former Rookie of the Year winner. And again, I went 3 for 4 because I did not remember a 9-game stop he had somewhere. Rafael Furcal is the second one.
Rafael Furcal was definitely an Atlanta Brave.
Most certainly.
He was definitely a St. Louis Cardinal.
Most certainly.
He was, I'm pretty sure, a Los Angeles Dodger,
You got the ones. Now it's only the 9-game stint that he had in 2014 that's missing.
2014, 9 games for Rafael Furcal. Did he end up with the Rockies?
No. Oh, I thought you were going to nail this. There's no reason why you would ever remember he spent.
Was he a Nat for those 9 games?
No, it wasn't the Nats. It was Miami. Miami was the stop for
that
9
was
games.
That was something that had floated through my mind too.
That's really funny. All right, sir. Are you able to do a double dip this weekend?
We're going to do a lot. I got a play-in game tomorrow, Robert Morris in Delaware up in Newark.
That's right, yep.
And then Saturday, going to make the trip up to Penn to see them take on Richmond.
Okay.
And then we'll do the double dip on Sunday, Maryland against Vermont or Manhattan, and then Georgetown against Delaware, Robert Morris.
Yeah, they get the Sunday night spot that's usually saved for Syracuse, goes to Georgetown this year. At Discourse, D1S Course on Twitter is how you follow him. USA Lacrosse Magazine. Patrick Stevens, appreciate you, my friend. Thank you for taking a couple minutes. We'll talk to you next Tuesday.
Awesome, Glenn. Take care.
Patrick Stevens joining us here on GCR, looking at the breakdown of the brackets for the NCAA tournament. All right, so it was a busy first hour, but good news, we got some time. Well, that's not true. We got to do Paul's 1 Minute Man. We got to do Cass's top 5. I do want to talk a little bit about the NCAA passing NIL legislation again yesterday, which is very weird and stupid, and we'll talk about it. All that coming up in hour number 2, and don't forget Simply the Bets on the way as well. And if you missed it last night, Stan the Fan Charles and Ross Grimsley caught up with Rick Dempsey. Great baseball chat. You can find it right now, facebook.com/PressBoxSports. Click on the videos tab, youtube.com/PressBoxOnline, or PressBoxOnline.com/video. Stan the Fan, Ross Grimsley, Rick Dempsey talking baseball. What more could you ask for in the world? It's Glenn Clark Radio. Sports fans, the wait is over. The all-new FanDuel Sportsbook is now open at Live Casino and Hotel in Hanover, Maryland. This is your chance to win big right in your own backyard. Bet on every sport with self-service kiosks and watch all of the action from the best seat in the house. Make every moment more at the all-new FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel in Hanover. Please play responsibly. Gambling problem? Please call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit mdgamblinghelp.org.
That first sip. That first bite. Start your day off right with a delicious breakfast at Royal Farms. Choose from a fantastic selection of fresh Royal Farms breakfast sandwiches and top it off with a rich hot cup of the freshest coffee in the world. At Royal Farms, breakfast is available day and night. It's the freshest breakfast in the world. Real fresh, real fast. Royal Farms.
Baseball is back, and so is the spring seasonal menu at Glory Days Grill. Start with the opener, flash fried pork belly with our popular Korean No. 2 sauce, and take a bite out of the Crunch Burger, topped with home run sauce, white American cheese, and house-made chips. It also features irresistible options like a baseball cut sirloin with blue cheese, grilled shrimp with garlic butter, and a strawberry salmon salad. And then there's the closer, the Cracker Jack Sundae with a waffle, ice cream, and Cracker Jack. This menu will be gone at your neighborhood Glory Days Grill. GloryDaysGrill.com to find out more. Great food, good sports.
The 2022 baseball season is in full swing, and the future is brighter than ever for your Baltimore Orioles. I'm Paul Valley.
And I'm Zach Goodman.
And together we bring you the Bat Around every Saturday from 10 a.m. to noon with everything you need to know about the Orioles and baseball as a whole. From veterans like Cedric Mullins, Austin Hayes, and Ryan Mountcastle,
To young stars like Adley Rutschman, Grayson Rodriguez, and DL Hall.
we've got you covered for every game, every pitch,
And every debut.
You can watch us at youtube.com/PressBoxOnline and Facebook.com/PressBoxSports, or you can listen at PressBoxOnline.com/radio. So join us live on the Bat Around every Saturday from 10 a.m. to noon right here at PressBox Sports.
The Toyota Tacoma comes in a wide range of models and trim lines. You can choose the perfect Toyota to reflect your unique personality and driving habits. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Tacomas from your local Toyota dealer today.
If you miss anything, don't forget that you can find whole shows later on Spotify, Apple, or Amazon Podcast. It's Glenn Clark Radio.
All right, back in here on GCR into hour number 2 of the program. Happy anniversary, Mrs. Clark. 8 years ago, she and I got married in an effing monsoon. Not a joke. May 10th, 2014. And we did everything at our house. We had a giant tent set up and this like beautiful tree that we were going to get married underneath that sort of faced out into the field. And we did the cocktail hour in the barn and at the farm where we live, and like everything was contained. And like around, I want to say 4 o'clock, like it was never sunny at any point during the day, but like we had hopes that it would hold out. And then at about 4 o'clock, it started to downpour, and I was hammered, like just the drunkest I've ever been in my life. And I don't think Mrs. Clark was in much of a different. So she was quite emotional because she really wanted to get married underneath this tree. Like, because they were like, we got to move it inside. We got to move the thing into the barn. And she was distraught, beside herself. And so, like, all of her friends are calling me like, oh, she's a wreck. She's a mess. And so my drunken buddies and I literally started hauling. Like, there's like a wedding planner, and we just like, we don't care what you say. We're just going to move the chairs back out into the rain. And, like, every picture from the wedding is, like, everybody just holding an umbrella, like, in the rain. Dude, it was so bad that, like, the area underneath the tent flooded. Like, just flooded. It ruined we had a band playing. It ruined their equipment because, like, it was so much rain that, like, the tent started to collapse. And it was and it was the best day. It was just the best day. So happy anniversary, Mrs. Clark. Celebrating 8 years together. All right, now, hour number 2 of the program. Brought to you by the print issue of Press Box, which is available right now. We believe we are less than a week away from seeing Adley Rutschman at the major league level. Hey, is DL going to join us tomorrow morning? Is that a done deal? Is that happening?
It's not a done deal yet, but I'm pretty sure.
Oh, I'd like that a lot. We normally, when the Norfolk Tides are home, we go to Norfolk on Tuesdays, but we were trying to work it out that DL Hall could join us, and because he's pitching tonight, they decided that wouldn't be an option, so the plan was to try to move it to tomorrow so that DL Hall could be our guest, which I like. But Adley Rutschman on the cover of the new print issue of Press Box. Great cover story from Luke Jackson, diving into his passion for baseball, his passion for catching, and the fact that despite the fact that he will be literally making his major league debut, his personality and who he is suggests he will be a leader on this team on day one when he arrives. So if you haven't read it yet, I encourage you to go pick it up for free at your neighborhood Royal Farms or any of the hundreds of locations around town where you find Press Box. You can also read the entire print issue at PressBoxOnline.com. All right, so Cass, what is your theme for the top 5 this week? What is?
Mine's a little cheesy this week.
Well, this is your final top 5, isn't it?
Yep. So I did my top 5 reasons why this was the best internship ever. Yeah, I know. It's my last one. I had
what
to.
a nerd.
That's so sweet. That's so sweet.
It's actually just all terrible things.
How are we doing with the Bridgerton ball?
It's actually going really well, so we'll see. The only thing that I'm worried about is I'm about to walk in here and Jordan's not going to find anything.
Oh, Jordan's not even going to try.
Yeah, I know.
There's no chance. But I said if you found something from me, I'd wear it.
Okay.
But I'm not doing anything. I'm not putting any work in. That's not going to happen.
Okay.
But I wear it.
Okay.
And we're doing, of course, Friday we're having kind of a festive day because Andrew Stecca will also be here to eat his tarantula and get his back waxed. Yeah, he's got to pay off his penance. He's getting his back. You could probably help out with a back waxing if you'd like. You could
the Stecca Open.
The Stecca Cup.
Stecca Cup.
The Stecca Cup is what we're competing for. We're going to have a ping pong tournament. We'll order some food. We'll have a ping pong tournament. I'm hoping that I'll have the Old Bay goldfish by then.
So am I to provide the ping pong paddles and all that?
Well, I don't have any ping pong paddles.
Neither do I.
Well, somebody's got them. You got to have a buddy who's got a ping pong table that would let you borrow some ping pong paddles for a day and a couple of ping pong balls.
I really don't think that
I would maybe put it out to Twitter then. I would maybe crowdsource this a little bit.
My best friend might.
I'm going to Five Below later. I'll look.
For ping, do you think they sell that at Five Below?
For
ping pong stuff?
For sure.
I think they sell children's versions of ping. I don't.
They probably sell solo cups and ping pong balls in a
Well,
package.
ping pong balls I think are no problem. I mean the paddles. Yeah. I don't know if they sell those at
Maybe
Five
we
Below.
should make some makeshift paddles.
That
would be fun.
I'm not saying it wouldn't be fun, but I still want it to work. You know what I mean? I still want to actually be able to hold the tournament.
Yes.
That's we're gonna have a festive day on Friday as we're celebrating the kids' final day here. All right, we'll save that. We'll go first and discuss the Orioles winning a baseball game yesterday and taking a series from the Kansas City Royals. Strange as the series was after a couple of rainouts. But does any of it matter? Well, that's always the question that we pose to our guy, the host of the Bat Around, our 1-minute man. He is Paul Valley.
All right, so Tyler Wells went out there yesterday, and he did a job. He went 6 innings. He allowed 5 hits, 1 run, no walks for the 4th consecutive start, less than 2 runs for the 5th consecutive start, really providing the Orioles a spark in that rotation, something that they needed coming into this year, and he has not disappointed. You were nervous about the team because they weren't hitting the first 3 innings against a guy who's whip was close to 2, and he had walked 10 batters in 18 innings. He retired to side and order all 3 innings, but they got to him for 6 runs there in the 5th inning. So the bats got going just in time for a nice heat wave in St. Louis. Hopefully they can get some home runs there. Why it matters is because the Orioles are still getting good starting pitching from a guy who could be part of their future. Why it matters is that the bats are getting going at the right time. As they got to play some teams that are ahead of them in the Cardinals, the Tigers, the Yankees. Not that the Orioles have playoff aspirations, but you want to see how they match up against some of the better teams in the league, and going into that Cardinals series, who's a first-place team, you want to see how they fare against those guys as the rebuild gets closer to fruition. So
they made it this time. Congratulations, Mrs. Valley. So a couple of thoughts. One, if you want to say in context of is this a team that's making some amount of progress, a modicum of progress? The type of thing that one of the storylines we talked about is measuring Brandon Hyde. As much as everybody said, well, his contract's not up at the end of the year, which, as I said before, doesn't mean anything.
Means nothing.
You You fire managers. You don't really like having managers manage in the final year of their contract. That's not – I know Buck Showalter did it, but I think if we all remember correctly, that wasn't exactly a great situation for all parties involved. You don't want that to be the case. So as you're trying to judge Brandon Hyde and figure out if you're going to let him have a longer time to work with this group, showing a modicum of progress is something that you'd like to see. Now, we have to be fair about that. I know that we're all – the schadenfreude of the fact that the Orioles are ahead of the Red Sox in the standings makes for good Twitter fodder, but we can't pretend like that alone is an accomplishment. We do have to remember that it's humor and not try to say that it's somehow significant. Just because the Red Sox stink doesn't make the Orioles good. We've got to do our best, because I do think that sometimes we understand that this is silly and let's beat up on the Red Sox on social media because it's fun, and trust me, I love it. But sometimes when we do that, I feel like we create a new reality where we try to pretend like it's some sort of accomplishment. It's not. Just because another team is unbelievably bad doesn't mean that you being not quite as bad as that is an accomplishment. It's just that's a statement about them, not about you. But as far as a modicum of progress is concerned, you should be able to win series against bad baseball teams at home. Even if you're not very good, if you're just showing that you're heading in the right trajectory, winning some home series against bad teams is probably a good way to go about showing there's something there. We don't know what that is. It's certainly not. Let's not get carried away with it. I do think that there's a danger there. I know our buddy Connor Newcomb was going on about them winning 6 of their last 9 because it's 6 and 9, and that makes, the internet loves that. But again, let's not allow ourselves to try to everything's changing for the Baltimore Orioles. Settle down. There would be a day where if something really happens, we'll know, and we'll talk about it appropriately then. But let's settle down in the meantime and not pretend like things are accomplishments that aren't actually accomplishments. Let's say it in a more appropriate way, which is with the standard being very low and us trying to figure out if there at least is movement towards something. There are reasons to feel like maybe there might be. Small sample size, still a long way to go. Yes, your point about Tyler Wells is probably the thing that you take away, and you say, look, and again, we're still, everything is weird because we don't know. There's such a conversation going on about the baseballs and the ball being deadened and what that's done to the game. And I don't know how to judge any of that. I don't know if at some point this year they're going to secretly switch out the baseballs and all of these pitchers are going to start sucking, right? I don't know. I have no clue. But the idea that Tyler Wells maybe is proving that he could be a thing, yes, put it on the radar. Put it on the radar as we add to the list of somebody from column B that can join Jesus column A, right? Put that on the radar in terms of Tyler Wells maybe being a guy that could end up swinging over there. I'm good with that. Austin Hayes continues to hit. He's certainly someone that's trying to move from column B to Jesus column A.
Mancini's average is up to 280 quietly.
It's just hard for me to come up with a way that matters.
A lot of infield hits.
That's and it's not even just that. Even if he was having even if they were all solid singles to the outfield, I just it's difficult for me to frame Trey Mancini succeeding outside of we just like Trey Mancini, right? That I'm always going to feel good for Trey Mancini because I love Trey Mancini. But as far as for the big picture for the Orioles. Right. You can't sell me on why Trey Mancini hitting 280 is
why it matters.
Is he would have to have 30 first-half home runs this season for him to suddenly be a guy that you could maybe get something for.
Right.
That it's so out of whack what a Trey Mancini would have to do in order to create value at the trade deadline. He's what he is. And again, I like that. I love Trey. Love him. Happy for him. But it's a different conversation as far as what actually matters for the Orioles. So Tyler Wells to me was the story yesterday, and that's a good thing. And the conversation about doing things you're supposed to do if you're proving that you can move in a certain direction as a franchise and not be woefully moribund, move closer to competition in the years to come. winning a series at home against a bad baseball team is a small thing that you should be able to do. So that's probably the closest thing I can give you to where I can join you in something mattering. They go to St. Louis now for 3 games, as Paul pointed out yesterday, and it's unseasonably hot in St. Louis. It makes no bloody sense. I don't know what impact that has on anything. I have no idea, but the
ball travels further.
There's that. I just mean, like, are guys prepared for that, right? Like, on either side. I don't know. This is something we talk about a lot in football, where, like, if you play an early season game in Miami, guys aren't ready for it. You will see guys needing gas on the sideline because they are not prepared for playing even having played or gone through training camp.
Right.
They're just not ready for, and especially when it's like October, when it's cooled off a little bit where you are, and then you go somewhere where it's still 90-some degrees. It is an impact, man. Like, almost to the point where the NFL shouldn't be playing 1:00 games in Miami until like November,
right?
Because it's such an impact, and it just catches you off guard. There is no real way to be fully prepared for what that does to you. I don't know how that impacts. Nobody in St. Louis, I think, is prepared for it to be 90 degrees right now. It's not. St. Louis is not a place where it's supposed to be 90 degrees on May 10th. It's a Midwestern town. It's not a southern city. It's a Midwestern place where they're used to it being what it's been in Baltimore of late until this point of the year. So I don't know what that does. But the Orioles are open the series. Who's pitching for St. Louis tonight? They hadn't announced the starter. They still haven't announced the starter. Everyone around the Orioles is kind of in agreement that the Thursday game will be a bullpen game to kind of get them through. I know Paul was hoping and wishing and praying that maybe it would be Grayson Rodriguez, but the folks that are around the Orioles. And as I said, that's nuts.
I knew it was a pipe dream.
Nuts.
Just
but it's just a bad idea beyond that. Like, it's a bad idea, and so they think that it's going to just be a bullpen game is the way that they'll go for Thursday.
I still don't think that it would have any impact on people showing up to the ballpark for Grayson's first start.
You say that, there would still be a bigger crowd for Grayson Rodriguez's first start, but it is definable. Like, there is a track record of this. Like, the first is always more valuable than the first at home, right? Like, when the first at home also is the first legitimately, there is the unknown. If Grayson Rodriguez were to go out and get shelled in his first start, there would be a serious impact on the excitement of the first home start.
That's true.
Like, there would be a major damper. Not to say that there still wouldn't be people that would go, and that there wouldn't be others of us that would say, hey, let's not overreact to one start. But for the average dummy that lives in Sparrows Point that has to make that decision about whether or not they're going to go, that person's going to be like, really? I'm going to go watch this guy who just got his ass kicked in his first major league start? You always want the first one at home to be perpetual hope. Yep. It's like when you're a week into the season and you get to opening day and your team's lost their first 6 games on the road, and it's really hard to have that perpetual hope and who knows conversation that comes along with the celebration of opening day.
That's kind of how I felt on the home opener this year when the Orioles got swept in Tampa. They came home 0-3, and you're like, again.
Like, I mean, yes, it's still opening day, and you're still going to go, and you're still going to do all that, but it takes away from what makes the day so magical, and the same thing would be the case if Grayson Rodriguez were to go get shelled in a start on the road. It would just take away from the excitement of his first home start, which is just why you don't do it. You don't allow for there to even be a risk of it. And someone would say, well, they pull him before he could really get shelled. Probably, but you just don't mess with it. You don't mess with it. You save it for home. You make your first start at home.
I am very
Kyle Bradish, however, goes tonight.
Yeah, I am very interested to see how Kyle Bradish does against that Cardinals lineup.
Sure.
That lineup's no joke.
Legitimate. Very legitimate.
I want to see what he can do against them.
100%. All right, that's the Orioles conversation for today. I think we more than covered what mattered. Now we turn our lonely eyes to Cass, Papa Cass, who is leaving us. Although Cass has made it very clear, there's a chance she might just show up again. Although Paul won't be here. Paul said if Cass isn't going to be here, I'm out.
Yeah,
that's how much you meant to Paul. Paul said,
I didn't even want to do the last week without you.
If Cass won't be here, I don't want to be a part of the show.
Makes sense.
By the way, I am almost overwhelmed with people that have reached out about the opening. I'm trying to get back to everybody's scheduled interviews this week. If I'm going to have to end up having a cutoff to this. Like, if you think you know someone who might be interested in being the next producer and sidekick and co-host GCR, please email me my personal email, glennclarkradio@gmail.com, because we are running out of time to get more interviews scheduled this week. Appreciate everybody that's reached out so far. Cass's Top 5 is brought to you by your local Toyota dealer and buyatoyota.com. Make the most out of every day in a Toyota RAV4, available in hybrid or gas-only models. A RAV4 can get you where you want to go in style. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new RAV4s from your local Toyota dealer today. Cass, your theme for the top 5 this week is
why this internship has been the best.
I can't believe you came up with 5 reasons. I can't believe you came up with 5.
I struggled to get one, but
it was probably the number one was Paul's School.
Right, there is
No,
that.
that was the
Yeah,
one.
that was
That
the.
was the
That's
one.
definitely
Yeah.
that's the end of the list, frankly.
I think so, yeah.
By the
One
way,
and only.
you might not feel the same way when I ask you to attack putting together our new fan after you do your top 5.
No, I'll put it, honestly, yeah, I was dying of a heat stroke, so I will put that
We
fan up.
well, just in time for you to leave.
Yeah,
just in
exactly.
time for you to barely use. But we will have a lot of people here on Friday, so we'll definitely need that fan
One
for
day.
Friday for sure.
Yeah.
All right, number 5.
Okay, number 5 is changing my loyalty to Royal Farms.
Hey, we got that figured
Yep.
out. But wait, we thought you always loved Rofo chicken.
Mm-mm.
I thought chicken specifically.
Nope. I never
That was
liked-
just you smartly lying to us.
Uh-huh.
All right, I like that.
Yeah.
I'm glad that you smartly lied. But
Mhm.
after you tried it,
It was good.
you
On
realized
Easter Sunday, my dad was like, wait a second. He's like, we're going to have to buy our chicken from Royal Farms now. So,
Sunday was Mother's Day, so I took Mrs. Clark
To
and-
Royal Farms.
No, well, hang on. I took Mrs. Clark and her mother to brunch at the golf course in the morning because, as you know, we are country club members.
oh,
we are
fancy,
swanky.
fancy.
We're country club folk. Every time we walk in, they look at me and they're like, "Yeah, him."
That guy.
We sure about this? I have a membership number. I get to charge the tab. I'm like,
Nice.
I get the bill. I assure you, I'm getting that.
I still
bill.
remember our tab number, our member number from when I was a kid. It was 406.
Oh, look at you. I don't actually remember what our number is because we do not do this very often. This is not. In fact, I had to ask a person. I was like, I don't know what my membership number is. They were like, yeah, that's because I don't think you paid your dues. We're pool members, so we're not really members until the summer begins.
Mhm.
But we do get to enjoy Mother's Day brunch. So I took her to Mother's Day brunch. So I did the radio show, and after the radio show, I said, hey, what do you want to do for dinner? Because brunch was the big Mother's Day thing. And she was like, I don't really feel like cooking. I'm like, you shouldn't have to. It's Mother's Day. I'll grill some burgers or something like that. But it just didn't feel like grilling weather, right? Like it was still chilly. It was still windy. It just didn't feel like grilling weather.
Right.
And so she was like, because nobody likes to grill and then eat inside.
That's
Like-
what we did on Sunday.
See, that
That's
sucks.
what we did.
Yeah.
That's when you're grilling, you want to eat outside. Like
Right.
you don't want to, or like if there's a back patio or something like that you can eat on where you feel like you're outside but you're really covered, something along those lines. We don't have that. We have no covered patio for which to eat. We just have outside and a picnic table. And she was like, I don't really feel like sitting outside and eating. So she and I are in agreement. We don't like grilling and eating inside. Not a fan of that. So she was like, what if we just got some fried chicken? And I was like, well, you don't have to tell me twice. So we indeed, for Mother's Day, we went to Rofo. That's a legit, straight shoot, 100% deal. So you're a convert.
Mhm.
There will be more Rofo chicken in your
For
life.
sure.
I like that. I like that a lot.
For sure.
Number 4.
Number 4 is just because you guys have seen me with a couple of episodes on this show, and you've seen me with a couple episodes.
A couple?
Yeah, maybe a little more with Paul Canavine as well. So I just put gaining more confidence, like being.
I like that.
That was a big thing that was really good about this internship is I just gained a lot more confidence. I think it was just because of the feeling safe here, like not feeling judged.
Say that, except for the fact that I watched you in front of a group of people just walk up and like look like a Baptist preacher. You
That's
were
where she
so.
got the confidence.
My
Yeah, but
God.
exactly. And also, I don't care about those people.
Oh, okay.
That's the thing is like I don't care what
Aw,
they
you-
think
you
of
care
me.
about
So
us.
like with you guys, I'm like, oh my god, don't mess up,
Oh,
you know?
no,
Yeah.
no. You've
I mess up daily.
Oh my God! If you knew all the times that Paul messed up, I of course do not. I never make a mistake. It's
Right.
never occurred, never will. But
Mhm.
Paul, Jesus Christ, every other thing that he says, he screws up. My God, he gets most everything. Definitely, by the way, I never screw up. Like going on the radio and saying that well, it's a 7-inning doubleheader, so the Orioles are going to have to rally in the bottom of this inning. Definitely never would do that on the radio. Did not occur.
Number 3 is getting to hang out with Glenn and MC in the press box. That was one of my
doing
favorite
Stevenson
things.
lacrosse
Stevenson
games.
lacrosse
Yep.
games. That was really fun.
So that was a cool part of how we worked the internship for Cass is when she and I chatted in December. I said, hey, what are you looking to do? And I got the sense that she kind of wanted to hybrid it and both be a part of the show and then learn more about doing live broadcasts. So in order to fill the hours for the internship, Cass was part of it. And that's you're kind of a trailblazer because now I have new kids that I'm talking to about interning.
So many people are coming up to me even still now. I got like a DM from someone who was like, hey, you're working with Glenn Clark, right? Like, could you get me in?
Yeah.
And I'm just like, no. There's a part of me that's like, oh my God, this is so fun. And then there's another part of me that's like, no, don't replace me. Like, you're not coming. Delete. Deny.
The irreplaceable.
So Cass got to be a part of the broadcasts and doing that. And I think that's, again, I like that idea for future interns of being able to experience. That's what this business is. Like, it's not just this. It's not just like it is a multifaceted. You got to put fans together sometimes. That's the way that it goes.
Search for duct tape.
I like search for duct tape, which we never found. We found 4 different versions of packing tape. We could not have more packing tape. Actually, this isn't packing tape. This is just Scotch tape. We have so much packing tape in this damn office, but we don't have any duct tape.
So now you got to get duct tape, lime, a shovel, and some rope.
Wait, what? What? Number 2?
Number 2 would have to be something that I thought, at first I hated more than anything, but was learning the tech board with Paul being next to him and like doing that. That was actually a lot more fun than I thought, even though there was one time that I was like holding back the tears.
Cass was straight panicked about running the show. Straight panicked about it. In fact, if she had been, I might have just had her keep doing it after a little while, but I could tell I wanted her to learn it, and she did, and she ran a show, and then I was like, okay, we're going to do some other things as the internship goes on because she was panicked, flummoxed. Of course, we have a crowd of millions, so the audience is so overwhelming, I don't blame you for being nervous about it.
All I can remember is the one time, I forget who it was, called me. And I didn't know, like, no one said, like, that he was going to be calling in, and I didn't even know who he was. And I couldn't understand him on the phone, and I was just like,
and then Leon Twyman.
Yeah, and I literally just shoved the phone in his face.
Sportsbook, who's going to be joining us here in a few minutes on Simply the Bets.
And I had no idea. And then number 1 would just be meeting you and Paul and Jordan, of course. I have to call out Jordan. And just hanging out with you guys in here the entire time.
Oh,
that
that's
was my
very
favorite
sweet
part.
of you. Very sweet of you.
Told you it was a little cheesy.
John Colson's really offended that you didn't put him on the list.
I honestly, I have a bonus. There's like a little asterisk and a little bonus.
Yeah.
I was going to say beating John and cornhole.
Oh, did you beat him?
No.
Oh, okay.
But I knew he would get furious if I said that on here.
I saw Cass. So John Colson, our most worshipful grandmaster here at Pressbox, he's been training for a high school reunion cornhole tournament. And so I would legitimately, one day I looked at Cass, I'm like, hey, Cass, because I could tell constantly he wanted me to stop what I was doing and go throw cornhole with him to help him train for this tournament. But I've got about 1,000 jobs. I don't have a lot of time to just play cornhole during the course of the day. So I looked at Cass one day and I was like, Cass, go up to John and offer to play cornhole with him. And she was like, what? Really? I'm like, no, this is actually helpful. Like, this is something that would take the burden off of my shoulders if you would go do that for me, because he clearly wants me to go out there and throw cornhole with him. So I
don't know if he knows, but I just lost so I could give him some confidence.
Is that what it was?
Mm-hmm.
I have bad news, though. That didn't work. He finished in second place. The tournament was this weekend. He failed, and it was a winner-take-all tournament. So
He got to the final, though.
Yeah, I mean, you'd think that would be worth something. You'd think that'd be worth something.
I could have either
Not at all.
won the whole thing, just demolished them and humbled them, or take the choice of just, like, losing, giving them that ultimate confidence to go win.
Right, the
and
ultimate.
I choose
that's,
the ultimate
I understand that.
yeah.
I understand that.
I've got a 20-year.
I host a Can Jam tournament every year at my house.
I do love Can Jam.
And it's part of, I do a big party every year where I roast a pig, and I host a Can Jam tournament as part of it. And we are also winner take all. And the first year that we did this, John Proctor, so we do a round robin, and then we have the tournament, right? Like to set up seating for the tournament, we have a round robin. And my buddy Jimmy and I beat everybody. We were untouchable in the round robin. But the problem is, at this particular party and at this particular point in my life, I was very inebriated as the day went on, and things started to fall apart as the day went on. So John Proctor was apparently, he's the crooked commissioner of the tournament, and so he collects everyone's money. And I don't know why, I had rented a dunking booth for this particular party just because I thought it would be humorous and people would enjoy it. And it was. It worked out. Everybody enjoyed it. Proctor was so convinced that he was going to lose and that I was going to win. And, of course, Proctor and I are blood rivals, that he threw the money to the bottom of the dunking booth. With the idea being that when we won, he was like, congratulations, now you got to go get it from the bottom of the dunking booth. And then we lost, and he won. So he had to go dive himself into the dunking booth.
Nice.
After the sun was already down, like we had to have
flashlight.
Oh, my God, it was a nightmare.
That's what you get, Proctor.
Yeah, exactly right. That was the first one. But yeah. I'm looking forward to another Can Jam tournament. But we do the same thing, winner take all for our Can Jam tournament.
I've got a 20-year high school reunion coming up on June 11th, and it's $40 a person. And
for reunions, actually doesn't sound so bad.
I'll end up doing
what do you get out of it? Like, is there a nice buffet? Is it open bar?
The
problem
I have
is
no
when
idea.
the problem is when it's $40 and they're like, and you get a sandwich and it's a cash bar, and you're like, no.
Yeah,
I don't need to see these people so bad. Now, if it's nice, if it's like a bull roast and like open bar, then $40, hell yeah, I'm in.
So there's a couple that I went to high school with who married, and they own Uncle's Hawaiian Grinds.
Oh, I enjoy that.
And,
we don't give out free advertising, but I do enjoy that establishment.
Sorry,
yeah,
they own Aunt's.
Yeah, fine, whatever.
Pomeranian.
We've given it away already,
Yeah.
Paul.
But anyway, so that's where it's going to be.
Well,
and
I mean,
it's a nice establishment,
I like the food there.
They're great people. I have no idea what it entails.
You
Maybe
go
it
see
does
Top
entail.
Gun afterwards.
I could go see Top Gun
go do
afterwards. Yeah, I haven't put forth the money yet because it's $80.
Simon Habdamarian and I are going to see Top Gun together. We're going to hold hands. Might do the popcorn trick, the whole
I heard
deal.
it took so long to come out because Tom Cruise kept firing people.
No, it took so long to come out because there was a global pandemic, Paul.
Right, but I heard it was supposed to come out even like last year, but he kept firing people.
No, I think that might be true that he was firing. I don't know, but I'm pretty sure it was about they wanted to make sure that like people were back in theaters.
Yeah.
And that it wasn't.
Well, that too.
I actually heard the same thing.
I'm not saying.
No, I know. I heard.
Are the young youths going to talk about this on?
Do the young youths
Friday?
care about Top Gun?
I mean, I really like Top Gun.
But you're unique in that way.
I dressed up as a Maverick.
Right, you told us that. I'm really excited about Top Gun, and also it's getting good reviews, and I like everything about that. So Simon and I are going to go hold hands and watch the film together. If anybody wants to, no, you know what? No, this is a mandate. Nobody can join us. We're going on the 27th. I guess you could have your own mandate at the same time. And I guess it's 2022, so women should be allowed to have mandates too.
Mandate
but, like,
the mandate?
Yeah, like we could be like a couples event. So Simon and I, we're gonna have a mandate, and then if you would also like to have a mandate, but you can't be a third wheel because we're having our own mandate. It's got to be a couples situation. If we're going to do it this way, we're going to go see Top Gun together. I'm looking forward to it. Cass, we'll talk more about it on Friday, but we, of course, have loved having you here, and you never know. We might see more of Cass in the future. Just might be the way that it works out. Thank you. That was very sweet top 5 for you to do.
Cass, after Friday, I'm never going to see you again.
Stop.
Yeah.
Oh, there's a good chance of that.
We should. Oh, do we play like on Friday? Do we play Graduation Day by Vitamin C as the show ends? Do we? As we go on. Does that song mean anything to you?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
For sure.
I don't know. I thought these were my keys, and I was sort of fiddling with them. It turns out they're Cass's keys, so that's weird. All right, we'll come back in. We'll get a tidbit, and we'll get tubular next, and then Simply the Bets. It's on the way. It's Glenn Clark Radio.
The latest edition of Press Box is available now. On the cover, Luke Jackson profiles Orioles catcher Adley Rutschman, diving into where his passion for baseball and for catching comes from and how he uses that passion to elevate those around him in the Orioles organization. Also inside, Bo Smolka takes a look at how the Ravens' 2021 draft picks can make progress in year 2, and Glenn Clark offers a very unique tribute to former rival Mike Krzyzewski that all Maryland fans can appreciate. Press Box is available for free at over 500 area locations, including 60 Royal Farm stores, and you can always find the entire edition, as well as the best daily coverage of the Orioles, Ravens, and Terps at PressBoxOnline.com.
That first sip. That first bite. Start your day off right with a delicious breakfast at Royal Farms. Choose from a fantastic selection of fresh Royal Farms breakfast sandwiches and top it off with a rich hot cup of the freshest coffee in the world. At Royal Farms, breakfast is available day and night. It's the freshest breakfast in the world. Real fresh, real fast. Royal Farms.
Answering Baltimore's calls for help, running in when others run away, working together toward one shared vision for a thriving city. That's your Baltimore Police. But the department needs more good people, people like you. Join a proud new generation of Baltimore Police and make an active difference in your community. Start with competitive wages and excellent benefits on day one. Join for good at bpdrecruit.org.
Sports betting has come to Maryland, and we're ready to help you win some money. Tune in for Simply the Bets with Glenn Clark and Paul Valley every Tuesday morning at 11:40. FanDuel Sportsbook GM Bruce Billick and VSiN's Aaron Oster join the guys every week to give you all of the info you need and even a few winners. So come win some money with us on Simply the Bets every Tuesday at 11:40 a.m. Brought to you by the FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel Maryland. Listen at PressBoxOnline.com/radio. Watch at YouTube.com/PressBoxOnline.
Baseball is back, and so is the spring seasonal menu at Glory Days Grill. Start with the opener, flash-fried pork belly with our popular Korean No. 2 sauce, and take a bite out of the Crunch Burger, topped with home run sauce, white American cheese, and house-made chips. It also features irresistible options like a baseball-cut sirloin with blue cheese, grilled shrimp with garlic butter, and a strawberry salmon salad. And then there's the closer, the Cracker Jack Sundae with a waffle, ice cream, and Cracker Jack. This menu will be gone at your neighborhood Glory Days Grill. GloryDaysGrill.com to find out more. Great food, good sports.
We can't imagine why you'd want to, but you can watch GCR live. It's at Facebook.com/PressBoxSports. And try to guess whether these guys are wearing any pants.
All right, winding down for Glenn Clark Radio. Simply the Bet's coming up in just a couple of minutes. Hey, a couple of notes. One, Brian Powell just showed me. I did not know that this was happening. Apparently, Everton and Arsenal are slated to play a friendly in Baltimore on July 16th. What? Cass? Why didn't you tell me?
I don't know. I just found about it this morning.
Oh, okay. Well, she just found about it this morning. All right. So that's a cool thing. Unfortunately, I'm away that week. I'm gonna. That's my vacation week this summer. But very cool thing. And again, as Baltimore tries to solidify itself as a World Cup host city for 2026, these are the types of events that go a long way in solidifying that spot. So hopefully, a big crowd for it. It's always a tricky part about playing these one-off international or these club friendlies in the summer, though, is you just don't know who's playing. Like you don't know. Because these aren't real. These are exhibitions. You just don't know like exactly what it is that you're getting when it comes to these things. But the word is, according to Everton, they announced that they will be playing Arsenal on July 16th in Baltimore. It doesn't say M&T Bank Stadium, but I think we can go ahead and make that assumption because I don't think they're playing it at Johns Hopkins. It's just my guess.
Maybe that's why they pushed that wall back.
So they can make it. You know, it's funny you say that because a lot of baseball stadiums have hosted soccer matches over the years, and as nutty as it is, when they announced Orioles Entertainment, I was told that other sporting events were also something that they wanted to accomplish. So, I'm not saying that's the reason at all that they moved the wall back, but in figuring out how you could get a soccer field or a soccer pitch onto the field at Camden Yards, like it would probably have to go left field to home plate in order for it to work. It would not be an ideal circumstance, but it would have to be like you wouldn't host a real soccer match there. You would host
maybe a football game,
club friendly,
like a bowl game or something.
You know, it's funny, right? Because I remember talking years ago about like the possibility of playing. Say, if Maryland and Navy wanted to play every year, which is not possible, just the way that, but like if you wanted to keep that alive, and at some point you felt like, and by the way, Brian Powell does confirm that it's at M&T, that you wanted to get some juice to it because it started to lose kind of its luster, that might be a neat way to do it, is to make it at the baseball stadium instead of making it at the football stadium one year, that like people would come back out of the woodwork, because the truth is that like, as much as I love Maryland and Navy, they're not. This is not Alabama and Florida that we're talking about, right? It's
right.
And it's been a while now, so there would be juice again to these teams playing against each other just because it hasn't happened in so long. But if they ever wanted to make it a more regular thing, which couldn't be annual, it's impossible for it to be annual just because of the the number of opponents that Navy needs to face every year between their conference and their traditional rivals. But if they wanted to make it more regular in the future, I actually think it'd be very cool for there to be a football game at Camden Yards.
Does Maryland football even really have a rival?
No, but never has. I mean, like
I guess Penn State's as close as it gets.
Right, but it's not a rival as much as it's a big. They have big game when they play a non-conference game against West Virginia, which they play fairly regularly. That's a big game, right? That's a game that stands out, that matters. But they don't have a rival, and
Just got to be good to have.
You either have to have a true in-state, like Washington and Washington State don't really matter all that much in college football. I know Washington made the playoff once, and that was kind of a crazy thing, but they don't really matter in college football. But it's such a natural in-state. Oh, Arizona State is a better argument. It is a blood feud, man, but nobody cares about Arizona or Arizona State football. To be this caliber of program, it would have to be an in-state rival. And while, yes, Navy is in-state, it's a very unique. The average kid doesn't grow up choosing, do I want to go to Navy or Maryland? That's not the way that it works.
True.
So it's just kind of difficult to have that. Paul reminded me, yes, Raul Ramos sent out a tweet last night about the Orioles being interested and I guess a workout. Is that what it was? Yeah, they'll be talking with agent Brody Van Wagenen. I had no idea that Brody Van Wagenen had gone to being Robinson Cano's agent after his time in the Mets front office. I had no clue that's.
Neither did I.
I guess he was an agent beforehand and then got into a front office. But they'll be talking with him about Robinson Cano. Baltimore is intrigued with the second baseman. I don't really have a whole lot to say about that, honestly. If the point is it's somebody else who's not Rougned Odor, and there's clearly nobody that you're blocking, so you could do the Robinson Cano experiment for the rest of the season if you wanted to, fine. What we've seen of Robinson Cano suggests that's probably over at this point. Obviously didn't play last year, and then this year, I mean, it was dreadful for him to start the season with the Mets. So I'm just guessing that it's over with Robinson Cano, but I really don't have anything to say. I don't have anything strong to say about Robinson Cano as a steroid user. I don't really care about that. I have nothing significant to say about Robinson Cano. If the Orioles want to do that, fine, whatever. I mean, whatever. It's not. It certainly won't be something that will get me to buy a ticket to a baseball game, is to see this version of Robinson Cano. It will not make me say I need to be at the ballpark for that. If it makes you do that, then I think you need to reevaluate your priorities. But it's a thing. It exists. All right, we need to get a tidbit and two-bit to wrap up for the day. Tidbit is brought to you today by Glory Days Grill, where the spring seasonal menu is available, and it's marvelous. The strawberry salmon salad is available. The opener, the flash-fried pork belly with the Korean No. 2 sauce, the Cracker Jack sundae, all available at your neighborhood Glory Days Grill. GloryDaysGrill.com is the website for you to get your order in.
All right, sorry, I gotta pull it up.
Well, how could you possibly know that it was coming?
I knew it was coming. It just took me longer than I expected. All right, yesterday, Tyler Wells picked up his first win of the season, going 6 innings, allowing 1 earned run on 5 hits, no walks, and 3 Ks. It was his 5th straight start allowing 2 earned runs or less, and 4th consecutive start with no walks. In fact, Wells hasn't walked a batter since April 16th. He said he hates walking guys, and so he just stopped doing it.
Well, more people should say that, maybe.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. His ERA now stands at 3.75 on the season, and his WHIP is now 1.13 and 0.98 for his career. Overall, it was Wells' 3rd career victory, the other 2 coming in relief last season. Of course, those 3 wins are a far cry from the most in Orioles history. 8 Orioles have 100 or more career victories. Who are they?
Messina,
number 3 on the list, 147.
Palmer,
number 1, 268.
McNally,
number 2, 181.
Flanagan,
number 5, 141.
How many did you say there were?
8. So you got 4 left.
Cuellar,
number 4, 143.
100. Boy, that is tricky. McGregor,
number 2, 138. Not number 2. Sorry, I erased him. He was number 6, I believe. Yes, number 6.
I'll believe you. I would have been really surprised if Scotty McGregor was the number 2 all-time leader in wins in Orioles history.
Number 6.
Oh, God, this is where I feel like I'm going to end up losing one. And they're all Orioles. There are no St. Louis Browns on this list.
That is correct. I made sure because there were 2 St. Louis Browns in the top 10.
Yeah. Pat Dobson?
No.
Yeah. How about... Oh, it's going to drive me nuts. How about Ben McDonald?
No. Didn't pitch long enough there.
I understand that. Milt Pappas?
Milt Pappas, 110, number 7 on the list. You have one more.
Dennis Martinez.
Dennis Martinez,
Okay.
El Presidente,
Okay.
108.
Actually, in hindsight, I'm kind of mad that I probably should have guessed Dennis Martinez before Pat Dobson, honestly. I'm kind of mad I didn't go 8 for 8, but I don't feel like I did poorly.
Those were the two. Those last 2 are the ones I thought you were going to struggle with.
Yeah, I mean, those are the ones. They are definitely the most difficult on the list. All right, very good. Here's coming up tonight. Totally Tubular is brought to you by the Baltimore Police. Join a proud new generation of Baltimore Police and make an active difference in your community. Start with competitive wages and excellent benefits on day 1. Join for good. BPDrecruit.org. Here's what's coming up. Totally Tubular-wise this evening, the Orioles indeed begin a series in St. Louis against the Cardinals. Kyle Bradish is on the mound against TBA, 7:45 on Masson 2. Masson, Mets Nationals, 7 o'clock. TBS, Red Sox Braves at 7 o'clock. Ooh, that works. Good job, Cass.
Ooh.
That fan feels nice. Oh, I'm feeling good. MLB Network, Tigers Athletics 1, Cubs Padres 9:30. TNT, Sixers Heat, Game 5 at 7:30. Mavericks Suns, Game 5 at 10. Both those series tied up 2 apiece. By the way, the Warriors stunk last night. They should offer to give that back. That was such an atrocious basketball game. ESPN Bruins Hurricanes Game 5 at 7. Blues Wild Game 5 at 9:30. ESPN 2 Lightning Maple Leafs Game 5 at 7:30. Kings Oilers Game 5 at 10. Washington Mystics host Vegas tonight at 7 on NBC Sports Washington. Aston Villa and Liverpool at 3 on the USA Network. And DC United in the U.S. Open Cup tonight against New York Red Bulls, 7:30 on ESPN Plus. USA Network for WWE NXT at 8. Some non-sports highlights.
The Kids in the Hall are going to be on the Tonight Show starring Jimmy Fallon.
Are they doing something?
I guess so.
Okay.
But I haven't heard from them in like 30 years.
I was going to say.
Then you also have a bunch of new series that are coming out on Netflix. You got 42 Days of Darkness, The Circle Season 4, Operation Mincemeat, Our Father and the Getaway King, and then stuff and things.
All right, very good. Thanks today to Maryland women's lacrosse coach Cathy Reese. Thanks to Patrick Stevens, ESPN's Kylie McDaniel. We'll get it all up in the greatest hits section of the
Archives
tab at glennclarkradio.com. I am to understand. You know how this works. Fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice. Well, we won't get fooled again. You know how this goes. I'm told Daniel Fa'alele is going to join us tomorrow, new Ravens offensive tackle. We will see. We think we're going to Norfolk to chat with D.L. Hall. We're going to go to Bowie tomorrow?
Yes.
Do we know?
Yeah, he texted me like earlier this morning.
But is it Garrett Stallings? Is that who we're...
I think it is. Let me...
Okay, all right, whatever. Stuff and things. That's what we're doing tomorrow on the program. Thanks to everybody at PressBox, all of our great sponsors and partners, including Glory Days Grill, Royal Farms, the Baltimore Police, Great 8's Memorabilia, FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel, the Baltimore Orioles, your local Toyota dealer, buyatoyota.com. Thanks to Cass, you're on social media where?
Instagram, Cassidy_Elizabeth22, and then Twitter, CassidyButler5.
Thank you to Cass. Thank you to Paul at Paul Valley III. Thank you to Ryan at RexSpexRyan. Follow us at Glenn Clark Radio on Twitter and Instagram. Have a great Tuesday evening. Go Birds. Duke sucks. Ohio State sucks too. If you are with us on audio, do not